Welcome. We are going to do align and hold version 1. And I will set the timer off where I can hear it, but you guys will not hear it. And so as usual, when we do this fun practice, the first 3 minutes are yours, meaning from now until the bell goes off, you have the opportunity to do whatever feels best to you. Maybe you just stay still. Maybe you move around a little bit, but you're taking this opportunity right now to just check in with your body, seeing how you feel, and really just starting to notice how the body is awakening at this moment in time. And so you guys know quite a bit about this type of practice. I tend to talk about it quite a bit. So we know that this is a Laya practice. And a Laya yoga practice means we're attempting to dissolve things. And particularly, we're focusing on dissolving blockages, whether they're physical, mental, or emotional. So as you're in your body and you're moving around for these first few moments, just allow yourself to notice what you notice. Where is the breath in the body? How does it feel? What is the general energy that's inherent in your breath, as well as just sort of moving through your body? You've got about another minute or so, so go ahead and finish up. And then as you feel complete, you'll start to make your way down to a tabletop position. And for our first shape for today, you've got options. You can take standard child's pose, or you might take child's pose with your elbows on the blocks. But in either case, you'll allow your pelvis to sit on your heels, widen your knees as much as you need to, and then either walk your elbows forward onto the blocks or walk your hands forward. Push down and forward with the hands or the elbows to draw the hips a little further back, and then allow your head to fall through the gates of your arms. And if the elbows are bent, you might press the palms into each other and then draw them back towards the nape of your neck. And in our practice today, I want us to focus on the sounds of our breath. So as you're in this shape here, just start to observe the sound of your breath. You might find it exceptionally helpful to slightly tone the back of your throat as you breathe in, and tone the back of the throat as you breathe out. This Ujjayi pranayama allows you to not only control the rate of breath as it enters and as it exits the body, but it also creates a soft sound that can become an anchor for the mind. And it also starts to create an internalized sense of heat and awareness to help warm the body. So as you're here, just observe the sound of your own breath. Finding a sense of steadiness and ease to the breath, both the inhalation and the exhalation. And as your mind continues to stay connected to the breath, you will become aware of sensations as they build. And that's completely okay. That's what we're working towards. And as you become aware of those sensations, can you stay anchored, connected to the breath, noticing its rhythm in, noticing its rhythm out? And as you take these last few breath cycles here, just observe and notice what you notice. Nice job. Go ahead and inhale and come up. As you exhale, plant your palms on your mat about shoulder distance apart. Spread wide through your fingers. Tuck your toes under and inhale, gaze forward. As you exhale, press your pelvis up and back. Keep your knees super bent for downward facing dog. With the knees super bent, press the index finger and thumb forward. Lift up through the inner armpits and rock your triceps to the floor. Continue to lift your outer hips up. Send your inner thighs back. And if you can keep that elongation in your spine, you might play with extending the heels back and towards the floor. And then just as we did before, become aware of the sound of your breath. Notice if you can pick one point for your gaze to stay fixed. And just stay connected to the sound of your breath. Can it stay rhythmic and even with very little effort? And as sensation starts to build in the body, notice if you can release any unnecessary tension without fidgeting or wiggling. The body's going to wish to do that. Tim, draw your chin towards your chest. Yeah. And you'll just pause and you'll breathe. And as sensation starts to build, you observe that. You notice the sensation and you stay connected to your breath. So today I would like to use the align and hold practice as a moving meditation, as it were. So every shape that we take, the impetus is first and foremost on finding stability in the shape, finding stability in the gaze, and finding stability in the breath. There will be sensations that come up, there will be thoughts that come up, but can you stay connected to stability, stillness in the body, stability, stillness in the gaze, and stability and fluidity in the breath. So the breath keeps moving. Awesome sauce. Next inhalation. So go ahead and gaze towards your hands. As you exhale, bend your knees and walk your feet towards your face. When you get to the top of your space, you might slide one of your blocks in between your shin bones on the second setting. And then from here, you might grab opposite elbow or the back of your skull. Shift your weight forward and then If the low back or the hamstrings or if the hamstrings are tight, you bend the knees and you just let the spine drape over the thighs. And if the legs are straight, see if you can come to a still spot, shifting the weight forward so the weight is balanced in your heels and the balls of the feet evenly. And then notice where the gaze is here. And pay attention to the breath. For this shape, I'd like you to breathe very actively into your belly and just observe and notice what happens here as you continue to have that Ujjayi pranayama, but you're noticing the breath as it enters and as it exits the belly. Stay with your breath. Breathe into whatever sensations are happening. Stay with your breath. Notice the sensations. Stay with your breath. Gently exhale all your breath out. As you inhale, release the hands down to the floor. Very gently slide your hands up your shins. Bend your knees as much as you need to lift your spine parallel to the floor. Now from here, with your hands on your shins, push your shins forward, squeeze that block if you've got it, and then send your pubic bone back as the shoulders inch away from the ears. Yep. Draw one hand to one hip. Draw the other hand to the other hip. Start to bend your knees, but keep your spine parallel to the floor. And then inhale, bring your spine up to vertical to sit for chair pose. You might bring your hands to heart center. You might reach your arms forward and up, but you're going to take a moment to steady the gaze. So pick a nice spot for your eyeballs to rest on the wall in front of you. Notice then next if you can soften any tension around your jaw, your mouth, your throat. And then again, come back to your breath. Can you hear it? Can you notice it entering and exiting the body, and just observe where that happens to be? And you'll just pause and you'll breathe. Allow the gaze to stay steady and fixed on one point. Allow the body to remain as still as possible. And throughout it all, sensation will come. Thoughts will definitely arise. And can you just remain connected to the breath? The practice of Laya Yoga really embarks or employs this notion of pranayama as tapas. One of the things that Dassakachar argues, Swami Yana or Swami Rama argues, and my teacher who follows in their lineage argues, is that pranayama, really staying connected to the inhalations, the exhalations, the momentary pauses of the breath is the greatest form of tapasaya, our disciplined practice. It helps to transform us to greater and better things. So as you continue to sit here and as you continue to observe any part of your body that wishes to get out of this shape, continue to breathe. Continue to keep that gaze steady on one fixed point. And on your next inhalation, you'll stand up, reach up, look up. And you'll exhale and lower the hands and just pause. See if you can remain still and just observe that a lot of that sensation you might have felt half a second ago, maybe 20 seconds ago, is immediately changing, immediately evolving. And you'll just take 3 more breath cycles here, seeing if you can send the breath to whatever parts of the body wish to wiggle or giggle around. And then gently go ahead and look down, remove your block and step your right foot long and back. Keep your left foot forward and we'll prepare for extended side angle. So with your right leg back, your left foot forward, you can bring the left arm to a block. You can bring the left forearm to the top of your left thigh. And then the right hand might reach back or the right arm might extend alongside your ears. But you're going to press down through both feet, hug them in, and draw those outer left ribs under, right lobes up, and just pause and breathe. And I want you to pick a steady point for the gaze here. And again, you're just observing the sound of your breath. What do you notice when you breathe in? What do you notice as you breathe out? And sensation continues to build or starts to build for some of you. Allow your mind to really just rest on the sound of your breath. Is it steady? Is it consistent? Is it even? The tantrics say that the breath reveals some of the most sacred sounds, meaning a lot of the mantras that we practice to steady the mind are really rooted in the breath. So as you're here, I want you to just notice what you notice. What does the sound of your breath sound like? When you notice any of the desires to fidget, simply notice that and see if you can just stay connected to the breath. We have 2 more breath cycles here. And on your next inhalation, go ahead and inhale, come up, straighten the front leg long. You might remove that block. Turn both feet parallel to the short edge of your mat. And just pause for a moment and breathe. And as we're ready, we'll take the other side. So turn your right toes to face the back of your space. Turn the left toes to face the back of your space. And then you'll bend your right knee, plant the right forearm either on the top of the right thigh or the right hand on the block as you extend your left arm alongside your ears. And then just as you did before, you'll draw that outer right hip back. Allow the left outer hip to come forward. Rotate the right ribs under, the left ribs up. And then notice a steady point for the gaze to lift or rest where the heart can stay open. Yep. And then you'll just pause and you'll breathe and you'll notice what you notice. Julie, keep the front knee bent as best as you can. Yep. And we're just pausing and we're breathing. You'll start to notice, if you haven't already, that there is sensation. And then there's the part of you that observes the sensation. And then there's a deeper part of you that observes you observing the sensation. So as you continue to stay connected and anchored with the breath, it gives you that opportunity to fall into that deeper state of awareness. So wherever you happen to be, whatever sensations are alive and present for you now, can you return to the breath? Notice its sound. Notice where it lives in your body. Is it in the chest? Is it in the belly? Do you feel it in the nose or the pelvis? And as you stay connected to that breath, you might begin to notice a momentary pause in thought. You've got one more breath cycle here. On your next inhalation, you'll come up to warrior two. Go ahead and turn your right toes in so they're parallel to the short edge of your mat or space. Go ahead and draw your hands to your pelvis. Inhale, gaze up. And as you exhale, you'll start to hinge at your hips, bending your knees as much as you need to in order to keep your spine long. And then gently release the hands down to the floor, maybe underneath the shoulders, or maybe they just slide down the legs. But you'll just take a moment here. First things first, press on the knife edge, the pinky toes of your feet. Send your inner thighs back. And then notice if you can allow the weight of the spine to drip forward as you steady the gaze at one point behind you. And then just observe, where is the breath now? Where does it feel most alive to you? My friends who have a lot of mobility in their joints, please bring a slight bend to your knees. Yep. And then again, how's the sound of your breath? Where do you hear it? Last big breath in. Last big breath out. Inhale, go ahead and lift halfway. As you exhale, turn to face the front of your space and come to a low lunge. Pause here. step your back foot, or rather your front foot back, and come to plank pose. Some of you will slide a block between your inner upper thighs. Some of you will lower your knees to the mat. Some of you will lower your forearms down to the mat. Wherever you happen to be, the first thing is to find that stability in the shape. So press down through the limbs, the arms, the elbows that are pushing down, push down through the feet. Find stability in the gaze, so making sure the front of the neck and the back of the neck are equally long. Yep. And then find that stability in the breath. Now in this pose, more than the other ones, I would like you to count or notice the length of your inhalation. Make sure the exhalation is even. And notice the length of the exhalation and make sure the length of the inhalation is even. And you'll just pause and you'll breathe and you'll notice the count, the length of the breath. You'll notice the sound of the breath, maybe noticing how effort within the physical body, or maybe effort within the mental body, changes the sound of your breath. So again, just continue to breathe. Notice what you notice. Any shaking is a-okay. It's simply the nervous system letting go of things that are no longer needed. And the body is a lot stronger than the mind gives it credit for, just as we are a lot stronger than our mind can sometimes give us credit for. Continue to breathe. Last 4 breath cycles. Gently release onto your abdomen. Bring an ear to the mat and pause. Just observe the sensation that's present in your body. Notice how the breath feels now as you breathe into the chest and the chest presses into the floor, or maybe as you breathe into the belly and the belly presses, descends into the floor. And then go ahead and draw the other ear to the mat. And again, just notice, what does the sound of your breath feel like now? Are you more conscious of the sound of the heartbeat because of your relationship to the floor? We're looking for those nadas. Nadas are those internal sounds. All right. Bring your forehead to the mat. Bring your hands alongside your lowest ribs and make sure your feet are about hip distance apart. If you've got your block, say bye-bye to block, or you can keep it. It's totally up to you. But you're going to press down into the tops of the feet, isometrically pull the hands back to pull the heart forward, and draw yourself into Bhujangasana, Cobra pose. And now as you're in this shape, I encourage you to remain active through the legs. I encourage you to remain active through your tailbone reaching back. And I encourage you to breathe as much as you can into your chest, into your collarbones, into your armpits. And then again, we find stability of the shape. And we find stability of the gaze, seeing if it's just 1 millimeter above eye level. Back of neck and front of neck stay equally long. And then find that stability of the breath, the consistency of the breath. It's constant fluid in, or rather flow in and flow out. And continue to breathe into the chest and into the heart as you're toning the back of the throat to hear your ujjayi come in. The last 2 breath cycles, keep breathing. And with your exhale, lower down. And pause and just notice what you notice. What is the sound of your breath? What is the feel of your breath? Where is it most alive and vibrant for you right now? Bring the opposite ear to the mat. And then go ahead and reach your hands back so your arms are parallel to your body, hands are alongside your hips. Turn your palms to face the floor. Press into the tops of your feet, pinky toes and big toenails press down. Inner kneecaps lift up, thigh bones or inner thighs lift up, tailbone reaches back. And then you'll start to draw your shoulders up towards your ears. Draw your shoulder blades onto your back. With your next in-breath, you'll start to walk your fingertips back and slightly wide to lift your chest. Tuck your chin to your chest just a little bit. So the back of the neck stays long. And then if you'd like, you can reach the toes so far back that they float up and away from the floor. If you'd like, you can reach your fingers so far back that they float up and away from the floor. And if you'd like, you can bend the elbows and interlace the hands behind you. Wherever you happen to be, we first find stability of the pose. So big toes, pinky toes reach straight back. Inner thighs lift straight up. Tailbone reaches straight back as your sternum comes straight forward. And then if the hands are interlaced, slight bend in the elbows so the shoulder blades can help reach the heart forward. And just as we did in Bhujangasana, Cobra, now that we're in Shalabhasana, Locust, see if you can breathe into the heart, into the upper part of your chest. And again, notice the sound of the breath. Last 3 breath cycles. Last one. Exhale, lower down. Ear to the mat and rest. Notice what you notice. Opposite ear comes to the mat. Notice what you notice. All right. Bring your hands alongside your lowest ribs. Inhale, you either come up through tabletop pose or you come up through plank pose. And you'll exhale, downward facing dog. Now, as quickly as you can, find the stability in your body. So knees might be bent or knees might be straight. Press down through the L shape of your hands. Lift up through your happy inner armpits. And then find a steady point for your gaze. Jenny, see if you can draw your front ribs into your back body a little. And then lift your hips a little higher. Yeah. And then for this one, I'd like you all to breathe into your abdomen. So notice what it feels like here. You still have that Ujjayi pranayama, that constriction at the base of your throat. But you can really allow the belly to distend as you breathe in, and you can allow the belly to hug into the spine as you breathe out. And again, you just stay connected to the sound of the breath. What do you notice? How does it sound to you? Sensation will rise. Allow it to do so, but stay connected to your breath. See if you can keep your gaze steady. And see if you can keep the breath steady. Last 3 breath cycles here. Nice job. Next in breath, you'll go ahead and gaze between your hands. As you exhale, take your right shin bone forward for pigeon pose. And so the right shin comes forward, the right toes might angle towards your left hip, or the right shin bone might be parallel to the front of your mat or space. Now, if the shin is parallel, you'll flex through your front foot. If the shin is not parallel, you'll point through your foot like a happy dancer. And then you might crawl your elbows forward and come into more of a prone position, or you might stay completely vertical. But wherever you happen to go, sensation is probably, depending upon how you're doing your pigeon, become more internalized because we're now in a deeper forward fold. And so I'd like you to still remain attentive to the breath, staying connected to the way that it sounds, the way that it feels, noticing where it's most vibrant in your body. So the reason this type of practice, this lunar type of practice, is part of Laya Yoga is because what we're attempting to do is to dissolve the blockages that keep us aware of the subtleties of the breath. And you might begin to observe that really as you pay attention to the breath, you feel the air that comes in and you feel the air that comes out. But the more that you start to attune yourself to the breath, to its movement, you might begin to observe that something travels along with the breath. Something draws it into your being, your body, and something draws it out of your being, your body. The yogis define this added thing that travels along with the breath as your prana, your vitality, your life force. And they believe that it's by allowing the mind to become quiet that we can start to become more aware of this subtle energy. And by allowing the mind to become quiet, we have the capacity to start to harness and thus direct this subtle energy. So as you take your last 3 breath cycles here, I encourage you to continue to just notice the breath. Paying careful attention to its sound and its feel. And then very gently, you'll start to walk your hands back up. You'll tuck your toes under of the back leg and go back to downward facing dog. Take a moment to pause there. And then when you're ready, you'll switch sides, drawing your left shin bone forward. Left toes might angle towards your right hip, top of the shin bone down. You might then square your pelvis to the top of your space as you maybe work the left shin to parallel-ish towards the top of your space, and then maybe crawl yourself forward. And again, when you're entering pigeon on this side, Ekapada Rajapatasana, that's a mouthful. Allow yourself to just observe and notice what's present on this side. Notice what you notice, stay with your breath. Take your last 2 breath cycles here. The end of your next exhalation, you'll start to walk your hands back alongside your hips. Walk your spine up to vertical. Now from this one, you're just going to shift over to your left and swing your right leg around in front of you. Some of you might want to take your blanket and put your butt on a blanket. Some of you will want to put your butt on a block. If you find that your low back rounds in any type of way, meaning you're kind of more of a, a C shape, go ahead and sit on a block or a blanket. And then we'll take a moment to pause so your right leg is crossed over your left. Wrap your left arm around your right leg and bring your right hand perhaps behind you. Inhale, lift up through the spine, and then you'll exhale and start to rotate towards the right. And in this shape, you might be moving a little bit more than you ordinarily would for the first few breath cycles, because I'd like you to enter the shape from the belly emptying and the revolution in the spine happening from inside of the body versus using your arms to force you into the twist, into the shape. And once you feel like you've settled into your shape, notice if you can soften any tension away from your ears. Lift your eyes about 1 millimeter above eye level, so it's just a little bit. And then start to attend to the breath. Now for the last 2 into the next subsequent shapes, I can imagine, well, I know, your breath has become a lot more subtle. It's become quieter. So keeping our mind connected to that subtlety becomes more of the ask. So continue to see if you can hear and feel the sound of your breath. As we get into deeper stages of meditation, we take almost what's called an internal ujjayi. So the external constriction of the throat softens, and it's almost like you hear the constriction inside of your head, if that makes any type of sense. So just continue to notice what you notice. Continue to pay attention to the sound of your breath. Got another 4 breath cycles here. Continue to sit tall through your spine. Yep. And then at the end of your next exhalation, you'll gently inhale and unwind and come back to center and pause for a brief moment. When you're ready, you'll switch sides. So now your right shin bone will tuck underneath. Your left leg will cross over the outer part of your right thigh. And your right arm wraps around your left shin bone. The left hand comes behind you. And always we want to make sure that the first thing we do is lift up through the spine. And then you exhale and start to rotate towards your left. And the rotation really is happening from the abdomen on the left side of the body, drawing in. And then that gives space for the right ribs to reach towards the inner left thigh. And then you can notice how you can soften any tension around your shoulders, around your throat, around your gaze. And from there, return to the sound of your breath. Keeping the gaze steady. Noticing any unnecessary tension. Notice the sound and the feel of your breath. It's a lot more internal now. And I think it's because the breath can become so subtle that a lot of the sages and swamis and teachers that have taught for 50 plus years say that paying attention to the breath, attuning to the breath is the greatest form of discipline. We've got 4 more breath cycles here. The end of your next exhalation, you'll gently unwind the spine and come back to center. Go ahead and extend your legs long in front of you for Dandasana staff pose. Some of you I'm going to encourage to sit your bum on a blanket. And if it feels like even sitting here is a lot in terms of keeping your legs straight, no worries. You're just going to bend your legs. You can even put the feet on the floor if you'd like. And then you're going to start to hinge forward at the hips. And so if you're taking it with the knees bent, you just fold forward. If your legs are straight, you'll hinge from the top of your sacrum, so your spine is as long as it can be, and you'll fold in for Paschimottanasana. And then you'll allow your awareness to just settle on the breath in this shape. Where do you feel it most here? And as we start to settle into this shape in particular, I'd like you to start to begin to elongate your exhalation. So maybe your exhale just becomes one count longer than the inhalation. Maybe you find that you can make it 2 counts longer. And depending upon how you are able to remain steady and easy on the inhalation, you can continue to lengthen the exhalation, maybe to it being twice as long as the inhalation. And if you work towards that again, you're listening to the sound of the breath, you're listening to the feel of the breath. As long as the inhalation stays smooth and steady, you can continue to elongate your exhalation. At any point that the subsequent inhalation becomes a little disjointed, you'll simply back off to what is comfortable and even. Take your last 3 breath cycles here. And then gently you'll start to walk your hands back towards your hips. Press your hands down to lift your spine up. And then from here, you might need to scoot your bums forward to lie down on your backs. So when you lie down on your backs, please make sure one and or both of your blocks are somewhere nearby. You can also put on a sweater at this point if you're tending to be cold. We're going to just lie down on our backs and pause and just observe and notice what you notice. Lie down on your back and pause. Great. All right. Last few things. Go ahead and bend your knees and plant your feet firmly on the floor. From here, make sure your feet are hip distance apart and directly underneath your knees. You might need to walk them in a bit. Extend your hands down alongside your hips. From here, start to push through the feet, push through the arms, and lift your hips high. When your hips are high, you might walk the shoulder blades underneath you, and you might interlace the hands. If you do all that, continue to push down into your feet. Continue to push down into the upper arm so that C7, the base of the cervical spine, lifts away from the floor. And then continue to push down to the center of your skull. Your sternum will inch towards your chin. Your chin will lightly draw towards your sternum so it is pointing straight up. And then you're just going to pause and you're going to breathe, and we're going to hold this fun shape. And as you're in this bridge pose, I'd like you to just observe and notice the breath here. How does it feel in your body as you continue to engage the upper arm bones pushing down, the feet pushing down, the head pushing down? You just notice what you notice. You have 4 more breath cycles here. How is your breath? The end of your next exhalation, untuck the hands, untuck the shoulders, and bring your pelvis back down to the floor and pause. Just be still. Just be still. Just be still. Notice the energy that's moving around in your body, most likely near your chest and your heart. Okay. So for our next shape, I will give you two choices. I will suggest the more conservative option, but you do whatever works for you. So you have one or two blocks available. You can just slide one of those one or two blocks underneath your sacrum and then lift your feet up towards the sky. You also have the option of taking modified shoulder stand, meaning you go back into that bridge shape that we were in, and you hold your butt with your hands as your legs go up towards the sky. Now, whichever shape you're going into, can you keep the collarbones open? Extend up through the legs. And if your knees need to be slightly bent, go ahead and bend the knees if that's better for your back. So Tim, bend your knees a little bit and draw your feet over your hips. So legs closer to your chest. There you go. And then in this shape, I'd like you to become aware of the breath. So we're going to do in this shape what's called a kriya. So as you inhale, your awareness travels from the crown of your head down to the base of your spine. And as you exhale, the awareness travels from your pelvis back up towards the head. So you inhale, awareness travels from the crown down to your pelvis. As the body breathes out, the awareness travels from the pelvis back up to the head. And so you'll pause and you'll breathe, and your legs are as straight as they can be. And you're noticing this more subtle thing. Yeah, there's a good one. And you're just pausing and you're breathing and you're noticing and directing your awareness up and down the spine. Continue to travel from the crown to the pelvis as the body breathes in, and then from the pelvis to the crown as the body breathes out. You have your last 4 breath cycles here. The end of your exhalation, those that are in modified shoulder stand, very gently draw your knees in towards your face. And then you'll reach your hands down to the mat, grab the mat and slowly roll your spine down towards the floor. Those that are in Viparita, slowly bend your knees and plant your feet one at a time on the floor. Pause. Push through the feet, gathering the strength of the hips and the legs to lift the hips and remove the block. And then you'll lower your pelvis back down. And then just pause. For today, let's go directly into Supta Baddha Konasana. So soles of the feet together, knees open and splayed like a book. You have your blocks. If you'd like, you can use them to support the outer edges of your thighs. That is highly encouraged. If you only have one block, you could use a block on one leg and a blanket on the other. But the props just allow the body to feel supported so that the body can open. And then you just allow the arms to extend to the side, maybe palms face up. And we'll come back to that Kriya one more time. So again, as you breathe in, your awareness travels from your head down to your pelvis. And as you breathe out, the awareness travels from the pelvis back up towards the head. And as best as you can, my teacher says this a lot, and I like this. He says, do without trying. Sounds like a very Star Wars Yoda type of thing to say. But there's a lot of truth to this. So as you're settling into this shape, allow whatever efforting might be going on, whether it's in the direction of how your breath is working in the body or the muscular engagement of the body. Allow as much of that to soften as you can. And you're allowing your awareness to travel up and down the spine, corresponding to the exhalation and the inhalation. So again, as best as you can, as the body breathes in, your awareness travels down. And as the body breathes out, your awareness travels up. And the next time that the body breathes out and the awareness travels up, allow the awareness to stop in the navel center or rest in the navel center. Now, as you find your awareness in the navel, again, we try to release all effort and just simply watch the navel center as the body breathes in, and watch the navel center as the body breathes out. We do without trying. As we work towards things that are called mantra meditations or japa meditations, a lot of the effort is to undo the patterns and the habits, the thoughts and beliefs that keep us from really seeing things as they are. Not only seeing our own gifts, our own might, our own strengths, but also undoing the things that keep us from seeing the gifts, the strengths, the lights within others. So as you're here for the next few breaths, as best as you can, let go of all effort and just simply watch the breath as it enters and as it exits the belly. Gently release the technique and return your awareness. As you come back, check in with your breath. Check in with your body. And then check in with your mind, that internal gaze or awareness that you have at this moment. Very gently roll over onto your right side. And you'll just pause here for a few moments, allowing the nervous system to support us as we go into the last bit of practice. And then staying with as much of that softness, that serenity that you may have experienced just a few moments ago, begin to bring your spine to vertical and bring yourself to a tall, comfortable seat. And once you're elevated, I encourage you to really take the opportunity to sit well. So you might flesh out the bum just a little bit. And we're going to take Chandra Bedna for today. Don't worry, I'll talk you through it. You're going to take your left hand and allow it to face up on your thigh. Tuck your index finger into the base of your thumb and just allow it to rest there. Now, if you're feeling like you need inspiration for today, the palm will stay up. If you feel like you need grounding, the palm will turn down. Your right hand will then come towards your face, facing you. Tuck the index finger and middle finger down. Bring the thumb to the right nostril, the ring finger, pinky finger to the left nostril. Gently close the eyes or allow the gaze to rest somewhere down in front of you. And then just gently exhale all the breath from your mouth. Close your right nostril and inhale just through your left. Top of your inhalation, close your left and exhale out through the right. Close your right, inhale back through the left. Top of the inhalation, close the left, exhale out through the right. One more time. Close the right, inhale through the left. And then top of the inhalation, close the left, exhale out through the right. You'll take 3 more rounds on your own, just doing that. Inhaling every time through the left. And exhaling every time through the right. At the end of your next exhalation, gently lower your right hand. Assume the same mudra with your right hand that you have on the left. And then just take a moment first to bring your awareness to the tip of your nose, to the holes of your nostrils, and just observe the breath as it enters and as it exits the body. As you continue to watch the breath as it enters and exits through your nostrils, allow the sound of the breath to become more subtle, more internal. And then returning your awareness just to the movement of the breath. Notice it fill the walls of the nostrils as you breathe in. And notice it touch and dance against the walls of the nostrils as you breathe out. And it's really here that as you continue to just watch the breath entering and exiting the nostrils, you have the potential to observe that, yes, there is air coming in and there's air coming out. And the more that you attune to that, you might begin to observe that there really is something that feels like it draws the breath in and something that feels like it draws the breath out. As you continue to just notice this awareness or this breath coming in and out, allow yourself to soften any efforting. It really is strange, but it's not something you can force. And as you continue to soften and continue to just follow the flow of breath coming in and the breath going out, you might begin to observe that energy starts to gather or direct towards the ceiling of your nostrils, that space between the eyebrows. And really, what you're starting to attune yourself to, or rather sensitize yourself to, is the prana that flows along with the breath. And so, as you continue to take these next few breath cycles, you might find that more and more energy, sensation, tingling, maybe even light starts to build around the third eye. Sit as tall as you can through the spine. Yep. And you might gradually start to work the next stages. You inhale up through the walls of the nostrils, gathering the energy there in the third eye. And then you exhale, you start to send that energy back between your ears to the space behind the eyes. So every inhale, the energy travels up. And every exhale, it travels back. And you'll just allow that energy to gather there. And you'll just allow yourself to breathe. Once you feel like you've gathered that energy, I want you to send it into your heart and just have the intention for that energy, that ball of light vitality to just rest in the heart. And then you'll just take 3 steady breaths. Very gently draw your hands to heart center, Anjali Mudra. Press your palms into each other. Receive the weight of your thumbs into your sternum and lift your heart towards your hands. Allow your chin to bow towards your chest. And it's in this moment that we just say an internal prayer of gratitude. for that vitality, that life force that travels on our breath, for that breath that innervates our body, for this body that enables us to be and act in the world. The light within me, vitality within me, honors and salutes the light and the vitality within each of you. Namaste.